Witchpolice Radio. This is probably the most ridiculous episode I've done in a while. If you've been listening to the podcast lately, you know I've been doing Zoom calls, kind of one-on-one or one-on-two with local bands and people connected to the local music scene. This is a conversation with most of the members of a band that has not played a show since, 2003 or something. This is the Grandpa's Army reunion podcast, and for context, Grandpa's Army is a band that no one really cared about in the first place. It was a ska band that existed from 1998 to 2000. All of us were in it. And for the past 20 years, we've kind of propagated this idea that it's meaningful or somehow relevant to people who have come along since. So I don't know who's going to listen to this, but I hope they enjoy it. And I think that the best way to get this started is if everyone just introduces themselves and what they played in the band, because this is a lot of people on one screen here. So I'm obviously Sam, if you listen to the show. I played guitar poorly in Grandpa's Army, and let's just throw it out there to whoever wants to talk.
How do I mute you?
Well, then maybe that's a good way. Let's start with you, Johnny. Who are you and what did you do in this band?
Yeah, Johnny Perrin, and I was the vocalist.
Vocalist?
The singer. I'm trying to remember. I probably remembered 20% of the lyrics.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Who's next?
Don't rush to introduce yourselves.
Morgan Jones. I played the trombone. Poorly. Like most of us.
I think there's there's definitely a theme here. We were all very bad.
Yeah, except for Mark, who is far more talented.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Goldwyn was good.
And Golden was good also, yeah.
Right.
And
I was not. No. I object.
Well, maybe Goldwyn, introduce yourself because we just said
I'm Goldwyn, and I played drums poorly in Grandpa's Army.
This is perfect.
Yeah. Okay, let's just throw it down to the bottom of my screen, which is Erica. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Erica Jacobson. I played trumpet for a short period of time with Grandpa's Army.
Awesome. What about you, Doug?
Yeah, Doug. Played bass, founding member, later replaced.
That's right. That's accurate, yeah. Okay, what about James?
Yeah, I'm James Ukwima, and I played tenor sax. I came in not at the beginning, but I was there till the end.
Cool. And then Alex, who is, this was Alex's idea, so you can all blame him for this ridiculousness. But yeah, let's hear who you are.
Yeah, I played keyboards and pilfered the money. A small amount
live from your remote Bali location.
Yeah. So the only reason there's any kind of relevance to doing this, other than it's just fun to kind of reconnect with people, is that 20 years ago next month was the last Grandpa's Army show. We played our last show ever, or supposed to be our last show ever, on Scalloween in. I kind of cringe even saying Scalloween. It sounds so lame now. At the West End Cultural Center, in Winnipeg, obviously, on October 31st or somewhere thereabouts, 2000. So obviously, most of us hopefully have gone on to bigger, better things, whether it's playing music, whether it's, starting families, having careers, having 9 guitars in one room, whatever it is, we've all gone on to something else. So I think that maybe the only way to really talk about this band in context is obviously, I think Alex and I have been the ones doing the most propagating the myth of this band having any kind of relevance. But for the rest of you, over the years, we made a documentary about it. You've seen constant, oh, here's a show poster from this day 10 years ago or whatever. What do you think about this ridiculous kind of forcing Grandpa's Army onto people still to this day?
I think it's great. It was such a fun time in our lives, and we didn't take it seriously at all. And I think that's part of the beauty of us sort of. Obviously, we haven't kept in touch, all of us, but it's just hilarious how it never ever just goes away. There's always this. Either someone's talking about it or Sam. I mean, that's usually you.
Probably, yeah. Fair enough, yeah. But
it's great. I mean, like I said, it was a really fun time in our lives, and we all had a great time doing it. And so it's just, I think it's I'm sort of thankful that it never goes away fully. It's quite hilarious. Every other band I've ever been in, it's echoes of the past. And for some reason, the first band that most of us were ever in is still being talked about 22 years later.
We'll talk about by like a couple of us, but yeah, yes, it does exist.
No, hold on. I have an obscure reference.
Okay.
My wife Arlie was talking to someone who was like, yeah, once upon a time I was at this random show at the West End Cultural Center, and these guys had a fucking toaster on the stage. and Arlie happened to remember from James and I talking shit about ourselves that was one of our famous shows where we had a guest toaster, which was in fact a toaster. So Arlie actually ran into someone who was at that show.
I don't remember that at all.
It's on video. It was documented. Yeah, it was a guy I went to. This was a reunion show. It was a guy I went to college with who wanted to be part of it, and he doesn't play any instruments or wasn't in the band, so we gave him literally a toaster to throw toast to the audience. I think we got yelled at.
I feel like that says something about our antics. If like the time we brought a toaster on stage and threw toaster in the audience, Johnny's like, "Yeah,
I don't know.
Okay. That happened. Maybe I don't know."
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you're like, oh, should we keep forcing ourselves on people? It's like, we were doing it then, so why not do it now, I guess.
Why should we stop now?
Yeah.
I actually talked to somebody on the flip side who was working sound at the West End at that time and also referenced that show. And they were like, I hated doing sound when the band was playing. And they were like, I wanted to throw them out that night. And so, because I think you see in the video, they turn off the lights or something.
I think they do, yeah. And they're yelling, stop throwing toast or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty ridiculous. But I think the one thing I like about the kind of constant propagation of this band is that we all acknowledge that it was bad. Like, I think if I had been sitting here, like, telling everyone about it all the time and, like, posting videos and stuff and thinking it was actually, like, some kind of musical genius, then that would be different. But it's kind of like, this is this fun thing we did. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. Like, why not just pretend it's important, I guess. So I appreciate that everyone's on the same page here, that it was a shitty band.
Oh yeah.
Well, some of the songs that were written, like the horn parts, they were really well written songs. They were just performed poorly.
Well, or they would just be like changed randomly by Will, and like, but well done. But like, we were not investing the time to practice enough to get them right.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Well, I think another funny thing about it too, in rewatching the documentary, which is another just absolutely ridiculous thing we did, is the fact that like not everyone in the band even liked listening to ska. Like, I think Erica, in the documentary, you blatantly say like, yeah, you didn't even like it. So
I didn't. Yeah, no, I didn't even know what ska was when I joined Grandpa's Army.
like, so does anyone actually still listen to ska at this point? I mean, I kind of do still, which I guess is not surprising to anyone. But like, what about the rest of you? Like, is it just completely gone from your lives? Like, thankfully, at this point.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm really into like 80s and 90s soft rock nowadays, like like Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald, and just some sweet. Sting is amazing, but But I mean,
That
funny,
Desert Rose gets you every time.
Yeah, like even like, I think I liked ska for like the first maybe 3 months of the band, and then I very quickly discovered hardcore and punk rock, and I was like, because I mean, even during Grandpa's Army, I had joined a punk band with other high school friends.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was very I was going down that road of hardcore and punk, and so even while Grandpa's Army was going on, what the hell just happened? What the hell's going on? My computer's glitching. How do I get the video back?
I don't know what you did, Johnny, but just keep talking. Keep talking. Your sound is still coming through.
Oh, okay, cool. Anyways, I didn't really like ska. Towards the end of it, I was like, this is boring as shit.
It was definitely the thing at the time, though, right? Like we kind of caught the end of that third wave of it, where it was actually a popular. I mean, there were bands like the Planet Smashers would come through town, and they, like we'd all have their stupid T-shirts, and they'd get like hundreds and hundreds of people at their shows. Like it was a big deal. So I think
Real Big Fish was popular
because like it was going in waves every 10 years, and it hasn't been back.
Well, I think that's probably because the third wave was so bad that like people, just people like us killed it. Like all these terrible bands.
I was playing at the Tony Hawk Pro Skater the other night.
Sure.
And
nice.
That soundtrack is still amazing.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
So we at least we were cool. Like we were sort of trendy, right? Like
Okuro. We were Okuro.
yeah.
I don't think it was. I mean, it was popular, but it wasn't super mainstream, right? Like,
Well, I mean, there's like the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and stuff that were pretty huge at the time, right? Like they.
Yeah, I guess they're the one band that broke through.
And I think Sublime had elements of ska.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and they're still quite popular, I think, right? I mean, among the youths, I don't know.
No Doubt, no Doubt was pretty popular.
Yeah.
They had.
Oh yeah, they.
Just gotta turn my phone off. They had moments of ska.
They did, yeah.
If I could cut in here for a second, Sam.
Yes, go for it.
Being in Montreal,
Hi, Doug.
I can assure you that the Planet Smashers are still a thing.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I know.
I've actually met some of them through
How many
mutual
albums
friends and
have
stuff.
they now done?
I think probably about 9, I would guess, at this point.
I don't know, but they still have their record label that's going.
Stomp, yeah.
And there's like a whole like a crew of.
I feel like they play
Planet
every jazz
Smashers.
fest.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Of course they would.
Yeah.
Doug, maybe this is a good question for you because you were in the band at the very beginning, like the very, very beginning, when it was just me and you playing terrible out of tune like blues
When we're
songs.
still a blues band.
Yeah, that's right, a blues band, quote unquote. but then you moved away, and then you came back a couple times, and you came on stage with us at shows where we had an unnecessarily large audience. Like, I mean, based on how bad the band was, like, what was your impression of kind of coming back and seeing that Grandpa's Army was this thing that people actually, for some reason, had paid to go and watch live?
I don't really remember how many. I think I came back the one time.
Okay.
And
There
I
are
remember
photos of
being
you
like
on
a
stage.
pretty- I think it was like the West End Culture Center.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Those
the
are
time
all-
I remember more is like the first time we played at the West End Culture Center, and that Hugo, who was like the sailing coach, was like gonna tune Goldwyn's drums or something.
I don't
Never-
remember this at all.
I have zero recollection of this.
You don't
Yet.
remember that?
Who's Hugo?
He was like the sailing coach
Why was he tuning my drums?
because he was like he's like a really good drummer, and then
Oh,
he
okay.
like came to see the show, but there wasn't a lot of people at that show.
Well, no. I mean, there wasn't.
It's a reoccurring theme.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we played shows so often that I feel like it was kind of hard to draw crowds.
Yeah. Every week it's the same 5 bands playing, at the Broadway Neighborhood Center. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. Those shows.
I swear my hearing has not repaired itself from those shows.
No.
It was so echoey in those basements.
Oh yeah.
It's so loud.
Oh yeah.
What's like people who have continued on in bands, because I think some of us have and some of us haven't. We were playing shows like, I would say we were averaging like at least twice a month or more.
It was quite a bit, yeah.
Like, is that common for unpaid bands that some of you have been in?
Well, I mean, I guess the Mouthboat, we didn't play that much, Goldwyn? Like, we
No,
played a
not
bunch
really,
of
no.
shows, but not to that level, for sure.
We didn't have as many opportunities to play, though. Maybe we would have if people invited us.
That's also true, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was, I think, part of this ska being a big deal then, right? Is that, like, people actually wanted to see it,
Right.
and so it was easy to get, for a ska band to get invited onto, like, some punk show or whatever. And that definitely didn't happen with, like, our other band years later at all.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, yeah, I mean, like, Doug, you've played in bands probably more recently than a lot of us. Like, what kind of shows are you doing out there?
What kind of shows right now?
Yeah,
No.
well, not right now, but like,
I'll tell you, I did play a pretty good show recently, though. We played with King Kong and Barbecue
oh, nice.
at this like place in Montreal, but that was a good show. There was a lot of people there. They have a devoted following, if
Yeah.
violent, but very devoted. There's always like people fighting at those shows, which is weird because it's like a garage
Yeah, it's
revival
not
band.
like metal or anything. Yeah, that is very
Yeah.
strange.
But
It's unusual
I'm
for
not-
their gospel group, yeah.
Yeah. Gospel.
who's a gospel group?
Never mind.
Morgan just killed the whole.
I don't get the gospel connection,
No.
but
But yeah, like I mean, I guess most of us tried doing other bands, right? I mean, like, Johnny, you've been in a lot of bands kind of over the years since then, and Erica was in the Quiffs, which is still today my favorite Winnipeg band ever. And like I mean that 100% sincerely. I love the Quiffs.
I still play the Quiffs on the radio.
I
in
still listen to that
Montreal
CD all the time. It
regularly.
was great. It was so like
Aw.
as far as I'm concerned, you've been the most successful like post Grandpa's Army member just because your band was so good. But I mean, like, what about the rest of us? Like, James, what have you been up to since? Have you done anything musically kind of in the time since?
Shortly after Golden and I were in a band in
What was in
undergrad.
everyone's
Yeah.
band?
No one else plays drums.
And that was pretty fun. And I actually moved to Montreal and jammed for a little while with some people out here. But now it's just kind of like poking around on the guitar every once in a while. I haven't really done anything that organized.
Yeah. And then Morgan, what about you? Have you picked up the trombone at all, like in the years since?
No, I believe I in fact sold that.
Okay.
Because I
Piece
was
of
like,
musical history.
by sold, I believe I meant giveaway, because I don't think I dented it so many times from either dropping it, kicking it, or doing various improper storage that it was basically scrapped by the end. I'm not sure it would have played. So yeah, I haven't touched it since then.
Have you had
Probably
any?
for the best.
Have you had any desire to? Like, I mean, are you just
No.
kind of done with music entirely at this point?
No, you know what? The only thing I screw around with is on ukuleles now. I have a lot more
Cool.
fun than a trombone is day in and day out.
Right on. Well, and then Alex, you're doing like some musical elements for sure in what you're doing out there in California.
Yeah, some stuff. The only like instrument, like I don't play in any bands or anything, but I bought a cajon recently, which is like a box that you sit on and you play. It's a percussive instrument.
Like those things the hippies sit on in like Osborne Village every summer, and
Yeah, I saw it at a So Far Sounds show, and I was like, okay. And then this guy that I know that runs like a band room was selling one. But otherwise, I think like the
What
most
does that set you back?
It was $50, but like they're normally
not
150
bad.
or 100 something like
Yeah, I was just curious
Um,
what that would cost. I've never even considered that. You sell a
that. But
lot
I've
of
done this other musical thing here. I'm in San Francisco now, and
I can tell by the
Yeah.
waterfalls behind you.
yeah, you can tell classic California.
Yeah.
The water, that's the water from the fires being put out. But yeah, I do this thing where we make up a bunch of fake band names, and then we have people that like don't know each other and stuff come up and just pick up instruments and make up a song on the spot. And we did it over Zoom, and Goldwyn actually came to the last one, and it was weird. And you get like
Not a glowing recommendation.
for 10 songs, you get one that kind of sounds like maybe a song or something.
Yeah.
But it's a fun thing. There's a lot of energy at the live ones.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad to see people are still like, you know, that being in Grandpa's Army didn't just kill, you know, fun for all of us. But yeah, it's weird. I like someone was saying before, you know, about I think Morgan, about running into people who like remember the band. That has happened to me a few times recently, and I think it's in part because I'm very actively kind of talking to local musicians like twice a week for 8 years now. So people, you know, there's definitely going to be some lines crossed where people remember playing a show with us or they were at a show or something. But people seem to remember the band in a positive light, which is always surprising me because, you know, I mean, we played some good shows. Like some of the shows that we were videotaped are actually like they're pretty good for by our standards. But like, you know, there were a lot of just really, really bad shows that I would not want to have seen if I was in the audience. Like they were fun for us, I guess, but they were awful. Like
I think the tightest we ever were might have been at Class Act.
I think it was.
Oh.
I think that was the tightest we ever played.
Well, I think, I mean, you know, we were always playing these underage shows, right? And like the kids in Winnipeg who are underage are looking for something to do, which is why we had like underage shows like every week. And so
Yeah.
I kind of feel like if you're going to those kinds of shows and that's the age you're in, you probably would have some nostalgia for that, right? And it would make sense that you remembered us fondly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's weird because Winnipeg doesn't really have the ska scene at all at this point. Like, there's been a few bands who have tried to revive it and failed absolutely miserably. But it's I think Grandpa's Army, if we didn't continue pushing it like this, would get like, you know, mercifully forgotten in the history of Winnipeg music. But I apparently you can't stop bringing it up all the time.
Well, Sam, can I ask, do you know about like kind of our contemporaries at the time? Like, I feel like there were these other bands that had older people who like we played with, like, yeah. And I just have this impression that they kind of hated us because they took it pretty seriously and we didn't. Do you know any of those guys and like what they're up to? And
I do. I mean, I know them. I know a few of them a little bit. Not so much the Racketeers, but like after Grandpa's Army, I briefly was in the Barrymores with Jamie Cote, who is, a Grandpa's Army member.
Oh, yeah.
And that started between me and Jamie, and then Dan from the Racketeers on guitar. Both our bands had broken up, and we wanted to start something new. And I quit that like within weeks because I was not into it, and I wasn't very good at playing bass. But but like that was kind of like the first real interaction we'd had, other than just saying hello at shows. It was like, because we assumed that they all kind of hated us because we were obnoxious, and they had matching suits, and they were music students, and most of us were self-taught or worse. But I don't know. I think that like I hear talk to Greg Crow every once in a while, and people like that. I mean, I've had JFK on my show, and a lot of these people are still around, still doing stuff. But it's I don't know if they romanticize the Winnipeg music scene as much as maybe I do, or I do of that era, because they were, a lot of cases they were adults already, and they had real jobs and things, and maybe we're trying to actually make it as musicians, whereas we were just a bunch of teenagers fucking around. So like it's
you really dodged that question, I feel.
I did 100%. I sidestepped the shit out of it. Yeah.
Remember there was like a time, I think it was you, me, maybe Golden and Johnny. Johnny was definitely there because of what I'm going to say. We went into Yamaha Music where Shashi Ramley worked.
Yes, I remember
like playing a whole lot of Milka songs on the piano and stuff, just like trying to
see if the guy would notice. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. But it's I don't know. I think it's the best. This was like maybe a decade ago, but the best answer I've ever had anyone say when they heard I was in Grandpa's Army was I was working for a paper at this point. This is when I was still doing print journalism as a day job, and I was there was an event being put on by Bacteria Buffet Records, which was run by Matt Henderson from RWPO. And and JFK was there. So I was interviewing Matt from RWPO and JFK, both of whom were kind of like, big wheels down at the Cracker Factory of the Winnipeg ska scene at the time. And we started talking about, whatever music things. And I mentioned that I'd been in Grandpa's Army, and I think JFK knew that. But, no, sorry, Matt knew that. But JFK looks at me and he said, like, you were part of that? The level of disgust dripping off his voice was yeah. So I think we had some kind of reputation as like, oh, don't play a show with these guys, they're gonna
I mean, justifiably.
Sure.
Like between the active attempt to sabotage the next band, depending on how long we wanted to stretch the last song, was like the ultimate asshole move. Like, let's be real.
Yeah,
it was genius, but it was a total asshole move.
Yeah,
maybe that's why we ended up headlining all of our shows towards the end.
It might be. Yeah, because I think we did, because like no one wanted to play with us, so we're like, let's just put on our own show. Yeah. I don't know. One thing I do think is cool, and this is like because of the way the internet is now, and everything's documented and everything's like exists somewhere, is that every once in a while I'll find something that is related to Grandpa's Army that I hadn't seen before, and it seems like that's impossible because I have kept all this shit for years, and weird. I keep sharing it and reposting it and stuff. But there was you guys remember? Some of you will remember this. The Heaven and Art show. Mm-hmm. We played a show at that bookstore on Cord. It was one of our first ever shows. It was Morgan. Well, I think Morgan wasn't there. It was Mark. Mark was the only horn we had. It was Doug was on bass. I was on guitar. Alex, Johnny, and Goldwyn. And
the poetry reading.
The poetry reading. And I mean, that we have video of that. And it's absolutely terrible. Like, we're so out of tune, and it's one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. But I found, like, I don't know where I found this. I stumbled upon some weird internet rabbit hole, and I found this whole documentary someone had made about that venue. And apparently it had this, like, thriving poetry folk scene that we knew nothing about. And it was, like, a really big deal for a lot of people. And then we showed up and just, like, played this horrible music and ruined it, probably ruined a lot of people's nights. And there was some kind of a set list that was in this documentary, and listed all the artists, quote unquote, playing at that show. And there was Grandpa's Army, and had Alex's old phone number on it. And it was
that's not the place behind the ledge. This is a different place you're talking about.
No, this was on Corden. Yeah,
the McNally Robinson, wasn't it?
No, it was like a sushi joint now or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
it was.
You're thinking of Rogues Gallery. That was the
Rogues Gallery. Yeah.
Point Avenue.
That was a great place. That was a great venue for shows. I loved playing there. And now that was like falling down a few years ago. I think they're turning into something now. But
I think it turned into a meth.
It was a meth
for sure for a while. Yeah, definitely. So
I bike past it every day.
Okay, cool. Like to get meth or what?
Well, no. Where else would you get my meth? I don't know the locations.
So since we're doing like usually I do these Zoom calls with like one-on-one and it gives you unlimited time, but because I'm cheap and I'm not paying for Pro Zoom, we have like 7 minutes left here before it's going to kick us all out of this thing. So I guess like to wrap up, I think it's actually gone fairly well in terms of having a direction sort of. But like what is your overall feeling about Grandpa's Army? Should I shut up and never mention it again? Should we just like leave it untouched and just like this weird archive on the internet that maybe someone will stumble upon? Or do you think it was important? Do you think it mattered in some way beyond just a bunch of teenagers having fun?
No, I think this is funny. Maybe we should do this more often. Even just reminiscing. Maybe it's just we're getting older and there's a little bit of nostalgia there and makes you smile, but it's I'd be down with talking more about this stuff with you guys, even if it's not on this platform.
Sure.
As far as Sam's podcast, but just talking and just those were really fun times. I'm still in the music. I'm in management at Long and McQuaid now, so I'm constantly surrounded by musicians all the time. But it's like it's just different. It's talking to you guys and just reminiscing about all this is pretty awesome and beautiful. It's great. I love it.
Do any of them talk about like a plan to throw cayenne pepper into the audience?
What?
Did that happen?
No, but we talked about it. We definitely talked about it.
We did throw CDs into an audience.
Yes. Okay. Alex, can you explain the CD thing? Can you explain this? Because like they weren't real CDs, right? They were just like stuff you tried to burn that didn't work or something. Is that
failed burn CDs? Or
like,
partially burned.
It is a time capsule of the late 90s because this is when you would burn CDs and you would go through potentially like 2 or 3 CDs trying to copy one CD. So I had all these like half burnt CDs and I would just write like Tupac on it or like like this Britney Spears, whatever. I just write like fake album titles on it and then throw them out as if they were our CD also. So people would get hit by a CD, discover it's not any ska music, and think, okay, well, maybe I got like a NoFX CD or something, and then they bring it home and it wouldn't even work.
It was us. It was us playing 2 songs and then the CD failed.
Yeah. So, when I do these podcasts, typically when it's a normal one, I talk to the person about their music and what they're actively doing, and then I usually throw in 4 songs kind of in natural pauses and conversation by that artist on each episode. So if you guys had to pick songs from the Grandpa's Army's really not very large catalog, it's just the same songs over and over and over again, but like, do you have favorites from have you even listened to them in 20 years?
Nod.
Clown song.
Oh, Clown song.
Clowns is good. Yeah.
I like Nod.
Train is good.
I think I'd go for Train as well.
Yeah. Train was like the hit, right?
Classic, classic.
That's like playing Freebird. And literally the length of Freebird.
Yeah, it could be. It's at times for sure. It could definitely be drawn out to that long. Actually, the one more thing I want to mention is before we end this up is like in terms of people discovering Grandpa's Army by accident years later. At that Heaven and Art show, the book poetry reading show, we did Sweet Home Manitoba, right? And it's really bad. Like it is. I mean,
it's awful.
It's we're all completely out of tune, which is like not even the worst problem, but it's bad. And a few years ago, I guess some pop radio station started a advertising campaign called Sweet Home Manitoba. So this video, it got like a ton of views and comments, like really negative comments because it's so bad. So I think that they were using that to try and get people to go to their own content, but then this horrible video. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alex, you've like forgotten the password to get into that account anyway, right?
Yeah, I don't know the password to that YouTube account. And
so it's there forever, yeah.
It predates Google buying YouTube, so there's no way to
get into it. You'll have to check your old AOL account that you registered it with.
AOL.
It'll be like Mozilla account or something.
Something ridiculous. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you guys doing this. It's always like in this weird time where everyone is stuck at home. It's cool to do this anyway, but it's it's especially cool to force a reason for it, like I've been doing with Grandpa's Army for the past 2 decades. Just like suggesting that maybe it's deserving of people to hear. So I'm glad I was in the band with all of you and everyone who's not here. It was a fun time, and I really appreciate everyone taking the time to do this because
and thanks to Alex for coming up with the idea. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
Boys.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together.
Guys.
Right on, guys. Cool, yeah. And if I'll pick some songs. If any of you decide you have some suggestions of hidden gems or whatever from the catalog, the catalog, quote unquote. Like, just send me a message.
The deep cuts, yeah.
There are some really bad practice recordings that I think maybe need to get a re-airing.
What was that? 4 guys from California?
Yes, yeah. And now you're in California, so it's like, yeah. That was a terrible song. But yeah, anyway, this was fun, and I'm going to stop recording here because, yeah, it'll come out. This will come out in next weekend, maybe. Okay. And I'll give you guys all the heads up when it's going to be released. Cool. And yeah, that's all I got.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Good times. Later, everybody.
Cool.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks.